Allow me to introduce the crucified dreamer. Her delighted laughter rings in the ears of those she has marked for death. Many revolutionaries have fallen to her seductions, the dreamer delighting in watching their beautiful deaths, all in service of her death lord, the lover clad in the raiment of tears. For she was once a revolutionary herself, one who dreamed of reform until the guild crucified her for a murder she did not commit. Between life and death, the lover saved her, gifting her the power of an abyssal Deathknight. The dreamer wears tears in devotion to her death lord, her skin the blue of a corpse. Her crucifixion wounds adorned by henna and chain will never heal. Welcome to another narrated art time-lapse featuring my character art for Vicky Pandora's OC Gala. In this video, I'll be talking about my process and challenges with this piece, particularly the fact that I eventually deleted half of this image halfway through and redrew the whole thing. To start, the gala challenged us to create fabulous outfits for our original characters with this year's theme of Vampire Masquerade. I chose my Exalted character Kalara's alternative universe vampire form, and guys, I'm so mad that she looks way cooler than standard issue Solar Kalara, because Abyssal vampires are super extra and totally up my goth girl alley. I started this image in Procreate, which I've been favoring lately because I've been working with a torn tendon in my shoulder, which has made my iPad much more comfortable for me to draw on lately. I'm due for surgery on my shoulder soon, but this image was scratching at my brain and I had to let it out. When I was conceptualizing this character's outfit, I thought of how the Abyssals in the Exalted setting have a spiritual connection with death. They also tend to adorn themselves in soul steel armor, a black metal teeming with souls of the dead. I wanted to play with this common depiction of them as pale vampires in black armor by making the dreamer more colorful with a gold gilded soul steel and a pink palette. Like her death lord, the lover, the dreamer is a playful, seductive type. In my headcanon, she loves gold, and so does the dreamer. What fabulous ages-old rich vampire doesn't, right? This image started out as a very rough sketch in Procreate based on a stock pose which I'll share with you later in this video. I like to sketch with a Procreate pencil brush which flows very nicely, and then add my color flats with a Studio pen brush, as it creates very clean lines and edges. At this point, I'm inking over my drawing and tidying up the rough sketch. As I was drawing this image, I was doing the little swirling ghost faces in the armor by hand. Little did I realize after much time had passed that I could just copy and paste the texture and tweak it as needed for the rest of the image. Don't be like me. Copy and paste is your friend. I have to admit that the dreamer's extravagant necklace was inspired by Avasarala's magnificent wardrobe in the TV show The Expanse, specifically the statement piece of interconnected jewels. The character herself has been an amazing inspiration for Kalara with her tenacity and penchant for hard negotiation and sometimes villainous acts for the greater good. The rest of the dreamer's outfit also takes subtle cues from Indian fashion with the bracelets, henna, and tassel earrings. At this point, I ran into some problems with the dress design. Something about the belt seemed off, so I kept adding gems and chains and reshaping it. Her exposed thighs also seemed visually odd. The shapes in this area weren't very aesthetically pleasing. This was when I began to realize I had some big problems which I chose to ignore for a very long time with this piece. I noodled and bounced this image off friends because sometimes you're just staring at something too long. And here's where we have to stop. At this point, I could have left this image as is. It would have been decent enough as long as people didn't look at it too long. But that's not good enough. Sometimes, as with writing, an artist must kill their darlings. This image had a lot of foundational problems that were keeping it from being a great image instead of a merely okay one. The root of my problem is that I didn't look at my reference much while I was drawing. To those who say reference is cheating, I say, nay. Reference helps keep your figures and objects grounded because our brains have a way of oversimplifying things when we work from memory. To break this down, my character's lower body was looking flat and skinny. Her belt sits at a center line which doesn't follow what the contour of her torso should be. Her dress design also doesn't help as the curved shape of the drapery doesn't follow the curves of her hips and thighs, which also results in a flattening of the anatomy. The torso and chest area also have a similar problem. I lost track of where my centerline was and drew the center too far to the front so that her torso appears to be more front-facing in my art, while the torso of my model has more visual interest and dynamism to it because she is turned away from the viewer. The centerline of the dreamer's skeleton-inspired corset needs to follow the centerline of the torso if I want it to be more at an angle like my model, which it currently doesn't. Then we have her hands, which were proving very challenging for me. I was able to draw her right hand fine, but her left hand was in the middle of this twist away from the viewer so the model could fan out her fingers in a very expressive way that suits vampire claws so perfectly. The way I translated the fan of the fingers in my drawing, however, makes the thumb look wrong and as if it's attached on the wrong side of her hand. Next, her legs also felt flat and jointless, with not enough detail given to the joints to make it feel convincing. The contours of the rib motif in her boots also don't follow the leg properly or acknowledge the more extreme foreshortening occurring in her right leg and foot. Contours are so key to making her clothing and anatomy convincing. Last, but certainly not least, comparing the face of my character to the model, I realized I had also made my character's face more straightforward and very neutral. The model, however, has a wonderful dramatic tilt to her head that emphasizes the fact that we're being looked down upon as mere foolish mortals. There's just so much more drama to that haughty head tilt and angle. And here's the point in the painting where I had to redraw a lot of this piece. I started with the head, since getting the face right is always my top priority, as that's where people connect with the character first. The trick to rendering this challenging head tilt correctly is to reflect that perspective shift in the lips and the eyes. The upper lip becomes a touch more prominent than the lower lip. More of the bottom plane of the nostrils of the nose can also be seen. The plane beneath the chin would be just barely visible. You'll also notice I had to move her hairline up some since leaning her head back means you won't see as much of the top of her head. The set of her eyes also needs to follow the contour of the skull, which will be at more of an extreme curve than a front view would be. After that, I had to move a lot of things around using liquify or completely redrawing it to get her corset and belt to match the turn of the torso and the new central line of her figure. At this point, I completely deleted the lower body. You can see where I sketched out the anatomy in red first, making sure I had the central lines of the legs clearly defined so I could understand where the contours of the dress and boots should fall. After fixing the lower body, I had to make another judgment call. Those sash sleeves were just not working. They felt kind of boring and unconvincing. These weird flappy sleeves were neither dramatic nor convincing as fabric. I also didn't like how boring and flat her weird little loincloth skirt felt. It finally came to me after desperately browsing Pinterest for a while that giving my gal a cape and letting her dress pull on the floor were the perfect dramatic solutions I was going for. Once again, I destroyed this piece and redrew a big segment of her outfit. What you see me doing here is sketching the new outfit quick and loosely with the Procreate pencil brush, then inking more precise lines with the studio pen. When redrawing these boots, I tried to take better stock of how the contours of the rib shapes should follow the roundness of the calves, and also that the toes should be more blocked off, since they were too pointed and at the wrong perspective plane before. I also cheated a little with the line of gems down her shins by copy and pasting a single circle and then the whole row onto the other leg. When in doubt, copy and paste is your time-saving friend. I did the same for the decorative studded snaps of her boots. Pro tip: if you want to draw a clean curve, circle, or oval in Procreate, draw your shape and then at the end of your stroke, keep your stylus on the iPad for a moment, and it will automatically smooth the sloppy circle or curved line into a more perfect circle or stroke. Finally, after redoing the lines over the corrected areas, I was able to return to fixing up my color flats, which were now all janky because I changed the shapes of the outfit. I don't usually add shading till later with these more simplified stylistic pieces. I ended up adding chain accents to the belt to add more visual detail to the area to balance the design. She has a lot of texture and detail going on in the top of her outfit, but the bottom was looking a bit too simplistic with the solid shapes of the dress and belt. Adding the chains brings a sense of delicate decadence and detail. Now you'll notice that I'm colorizing the lines. I do this to help add visual interest and depth to the image, as leaving lines as a flat black has a habit of making everything read as being the same depth. An easy way to do this is to alpha lock your line layer in Procreate and color on the lines, since you'll only make marks on the part of your layer that is not transparent. Here I've started to add very simple soft shading with a medium hard airbrush in Procreate. This brush reacts very sensitively to how hard you press your stylus, with the harder you press making a harder edge, while the softer you press, the softer the edge will be. It's great for soft transitions with just a bit of harshness to them, which is good for sharper planes of the face like the nose. When doing simple shading like this, specular highlights can do so much to give a sense of form and add a moody feel to the lighting, since the points of contrast help lead the viewer's eyes around the piece. Luckily for me, Vicky Pandora provided this wonderful painted background for those participating in the Vampire Masquerade themed OC Gala, so I got to be lazy and focus only on designing the Crucified Dreamer's outfit. The final phase of this piece involved importing it into Photoshop, where I did some color and contrast correction and also added a very subtle layer of texture on top of the figure to help the image feel organic and less plastic digital looking. I hope you enjoyed this challenging journey I had with the Crucified Dreamer's outfit for the OC Gala. She was a blast to paint, and I am so happy to indulge in this dark fantasy aesthetic that I love, so maybe you'll be seeing more of it from me. Leave a comment in the comments if you'd like to see more vampire ladies. I know I would. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. Feel free to sub to my channel as I occasionally put up more time lapses like this. If you loved my work and want to make it easier for me to spend all my time drawing vampire ladies, you can buy me a coffee over on Ko-fi. Just look up ko-fi.com/my name, Angela Sasser, ANGELASASSER. Thanks for watching. I wish you all inspiration.